Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And guys, we got these sweet-ass backgrounds back where they belong, and I couldn't think of any place better than our NXT review, because this was quite an episode tonight. Honestly, with some of the highlighting that they did of certain competitors and matches, you would have thought this was the go-home show, but that is next week. Tonight, however, we did have a huge main event, Hideo Itami versus Roderick Strong for the number one contendership for the NXT Championship that I thought absolutely killed it. We got some updates on some downtrodden competitors, some interesting video packages, and it was all around a very solid show. Ashton, what did you think of it?
Yeah, this is one of the better episodes of NXT in recent memory, and I mean it's relatively predictably a good episode because we're closing in on TakeOver. You know, that's always when NXT steps it up. That's always when NXT puts their backs into it, and they have that sense of purpose and direction, and they're at their best, and that is consistent to this episode. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really, from beginning to end, I didn't really feel any lulls in it. I think I might have only rolled my eyes like once or twice in this entire show.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it as well, dude. I thought the matches were well structured. You know, each of them kind of having their own purpose, so to speak. I actually got hyped for TakeOver Chicago because of the show. I hope the go-home show next week is as good, if not better. And yeah, I mean, we're just going down that road. So, are there any other preliminary remarks you want to make before we really get into this?
Well, I did take notes for this, so we actually have some decent structure to go on. So yeah, I'm ready to get into it when you are.
All right, well, getting right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. No heats of the night tonight. No qualms with this show. Again, I had a lot of fun with it. Ashton, what about you?
I have a nitpick.
Okay, let's get your nitpick out of the way. What are you feeling?
I'm getting the feeling that they are just straight up doing away with the Patrick Clark name, and his name as a performer is literally just going to be Velveteen Dream, and that shit is cringy as hell.
Didn't they say Patrick Clark Experience, though?
No, they didn't. Not in the vignette, no.
Wow, okay. We might really be doing this. I have feelings about that. Why, though? Yeah, like, I like Velveteen Dream as a nickname. I like it as a gimmick, as a concept. But if that's the ring name, ooh...
Yeah, that's exactly what my nitpick is, because if it ends up being the actual nickname of the performer, I am very weary, apprehensive, straight up, like, convinced it's not going to work.
Yeah, can't really say I blame you there, bud. I hope that's false. I hope they don't go with that, because, again, you and I talked, I think it was just last week, because that was the first vignette. You and I think the world of this young man, you know, Patrick Clark, think he has a huge upside. But honestly, and I hope I'm not committing hyperbole here, but I feel like if you're really going to try and make the actual ring name Velveteen Dream, it's DOA for me. It's dead on arrival. Like, I hope they don't do it, man. So I
want the Patrick Clark Experience. I want the artist formerly known as Patrick Clark, or really just Patrick Clark. Any of that is infinitely better than the Velveteen Dream.
Yeah.
Even if you want to call him the Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, but give him a name.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, dude. Even thinking about that as a possibility makes my body tense up, because, and it's not even just because, oh, it's bad, but it's a bad thing potentially happening to a guy that we know can be so good.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it doubly worse.
Honestly, even if you want to give him like an alter ego, like a work name, like, you know, like Goldust or Kane or The Undertaker or something like that, pick something that's a little more succinct. I mean, Velveteen Dream is like 4 syllables. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, Patrick Clark, The Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, works beautifully. But just the Velveteen Dream, I'm not down with that at all.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you airing that out there. Is there anything else you want to say about that nitpick? Or
no, really the nitpick only applies if that actually is his new stage name. I'm just not a fan of that.
Right. Is there anything else, any other grievance you want to air out about tonight's episode that you had, or can we get
I don't think so, no. And I agree with Cliff Amal in chat. I think the Patrick Clark experience is definitely the way to go, because that kind of gives him that Prince vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he definitely gives off that aura to me in a very heelish way, which is what he's after. And
I know
I just hope they don't kill this.
I think it's the Jimi Hendrix experience is where that's kind of influenced by, but it still kind of gives me like a Prince vibe. I don't know why.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do with it. But with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. And if I'm not mistaken, partner, we open this baby up by poetically fading to black. Because
we do. Alistair Black comes out, and he has first match of the night, Alistair Black versus Cesar Bonani.
Yeah, and Bonani, I'll give the guy credit from an aesthetic standpoint.
He's a big dude.
A great look. Yeah, big dude, good look. Unfortunately,
might be the next Baron Corbin type character who kind of starts out as a jobber and then gets a monster push.
That's the beauty of NXT, and a beauty that I think this show may be returning to, but we'll get into that a little bit later. If you see a guy that's a jobber today, could be putting a string of wins together tomorrow. So you never know with guys like that. However, in this present age, it's Alistair Black's time, and I don't think Brandon is currently in chat, but I know Alistair Black is his boy. Oh, there he is. And yeah, Alistair,
we should know anytime we mention Alistair Black, Brandon's going to show up.
It's like that Family Guy joke where fathers apparently know when the thermostat's adjusted. Brandon just knows, like, wait, I heard Alistair Black somewhere. Where? But yeah,
my Alistair Black senses are tingling.
I'll tell you what, dude, if the whole idea of this guy, which I do believe he is, like, he, of course, extension of the real life personality because he's a real life Satanist, he's got that whole aesthetic going on. But if the in-ring standpoint is this guy's a legit fighter, which they've mentioned, the Muay Thai, the kickboxing, all that stuff, this is great packaging because that. Wonderful. So, yeah, great stuff.
Dude, something happened. Your mic must have cut out there for a second. Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, yeah, I noticed that. I'm like, am I being censored? No, I was just saying with Alistair Black, like, I really dig the character because it's clearly an extension of his real-life personality. With him being a Satanist, he's really embodying that aesthetic. But from an in-ring standpoint, I love the presentation because they're saying, like, oh, he's a kickboxer, the Muay Thai, like all these fighting styles. And he really carries that with him. Like, I know with CM Punk, they said, like, he had, like, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. And I feel like we saw a little bit of that. But with Alistair Black, like, that really is the in-ring character. And that
because the thing with CM Punk is it always felt like Punk learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to get better at wrestling. It feels like Alistair Black is a legitimate kickboxer who happened to get into the wrestling business.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, partner. And you know what, though? It works. Because, again, that
his matches feel so much more real than everyone else's, so much more shoot style than everyone else's. Like, it's one of those things that kind of stands out. Even if you go back to, like, his PWG work or his Progress work or whatever, he has this ability of making his matches feel like real fights. And that's not something that you can take lightly. That's not something that everyone has. That's not a common trait. That's rare, and that's something you need to harness and run with.
Oh, brother, I completely agree with you. It was funny to me, dude, because watching Alistair Black, and obviously this is our first rodeo. I mean, we've seen him against Andrade, we've seen him against jobbers, like all that stuff. So, this isn't a first outing, but really seeing him, it's amazing because he reminds me of so many guys that we love in New Japan, because we've always said about New Japan, like, they're the other side of the spectrum. They're going to make you believe that you're seeing a real fight every fight. They have their character, sure.
I mean, most fights. Let's not make any bones about Ospreay versus Ricochet feeling like a real fight.
Certainly not, right? But I think even then there are parts where it's like, oh, yeah, the physicality and all this stuff is upped. he's definitely got that New Japan vibe about him. This guy may be the closest the WWE gets to having like their own kind of Shibata-esque character, because that's the vibe I was getting just watching him pick this guy apart. And yeah, again, that Black Mass kick, really, I think it's already a credible finisher, which is a huge, huge sign in a positive direction.
Do you know what the actual technical term is for that kick?
What is it?
It's just a reverse roundhouse kick.
Okay. So yeah, that
because like a roundhouse kick is like what Punk used to do when like he and his opponent were both standing in the ring and he just kick him right in the head.
Right.
Well, this is the reverse version of that. So rather than kicking from right to left, he kicks from like around the back, like a spin.
Yeah. And, you know, to me, like, if he were to hit Bobby Roode with that kick, instantly new NXT champion.
It's been protected well enough and built well enough that I could definitely see one of them doing Bobby Roode away. And honestly, I know NXT is like this, like, they're like built for the marks, and they're like, oh, match quality, work rate, marks. But at the same time, I could honestly buy Alistair Black beating Bobby Roode in 2 minutes the same way he's beaten everyone else.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm so glad you said that, so I'm not alone. I'm the exact same way. I'm like, the moment you give that guy... But see, here's where we kind of walk that tightrope, right? Because the way they're building Alistair, don't get me wrong, I love it. But if Bobby Roode happens to still be the champion when they cross paths, how am I not going to pick Alistair Black to win? Because, like, he's just looking like that guy. He's going to murder your face. So it's going to be very interesting. Like, one thing that does have me curious, and NXT was kind of meta in its own way about this tonight. You've got such a crop of contenders. I mean, Strong, Hideo, McIntyre, Alistair Black, like, all these guys. Oh, no, yeah. And... you know, it's a good time, but you got to be careful what contenders you pick because, I mean, you know, we'll talk about that later. CN, yeah. But Alistair, man, when I look at his performances and just how into him the crowd is and just everything being right now, my mind immediately goes to it's an NXT championship match sooner rather than later, and I'm very curious what NXT will do when they are faced with that choice. But that said, Alistair Black with the quick win after Black Mass, and what was it, Zanani? His consciousness faded to black. So
you got the name right, but you got the first letter wrong. It was Bonani.
Bonani. Yeah, he's whatever I want to call him. He's unconscious. He can't resist. So there you go.
I mean, hey, the guy looked huge, and you know what though? I like that they chose this Cesar Bonani dude to be Alistair's opponent tonight because you put him against this big, intimidating, athletic-looking dude. He's got a great build, and like this is a guy who looks like he could be like an NFL linebacker, maybe even too tall to be a linebacker. I don't know. He looked like he was at least 6'5". And, like, Alistair handles him just like he's handled everyone else. And also, I want to say, I absolutely loved that Alistair used sort of almost like a form of joint manipulation. Like, he kicked down the inside of the knee to knock Cesar down to his level so he could kick him properly.
Yeah. And you
that was when he was setting up for that knee to the back.
Right. Yeah, you make great points too about like just the look of the opposition and the size of Bonani, because it just makes it seem like Alistair could take down anybody. And like you once said about Seth Rollins, and I never forgot this, everybody's the same size when they're on their hands and knees, and that's where Alistair could bring anybody if he wanted to. So it immediately, to me, establishes that credibility of it doesn't matter if you're 7 foot tall or you're the size of a Rey Mysterio, as Stella unaffectionately calls him, the masked hobbit. Alistair's just going to kick your head off. So, you know, I think that's great. This may be, honestly, and I don't even want to say this because, like, I'm a huge fan of the guy. Like, I like him, but I'm not, like, super marky like I would be, say, with a Mundo. But this may be one of the best assets that NXT has had in a while. Like, I just feel like he's checking all the boxes right now. So I'll be very curious.
And really between, like, it's one of those rare cases where the performer and the presentation kind of meet, where it's an awesome presentation and it's got the performer to kind of live up to how good the presentation is. And it's just this great synergy between performer and presentation that make for somebody who really I could see on the main roster by the end of 2017 already. Like, I do not think he is going to be in NXT for very long because he is clicking, and he's clicking quickly.
Dude, this whole conversation you and I have had about Alistair Black, I don't really think I've been in disagreement with you once, and it continues here because I do see him as one of those prospects that has a very fast graduation or demotion, depending on if you're more cynical, to that main
I mean, if
roster
it's the
spot.
SmackDown, we can call it a graduation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That way he can
Dude,
lose
this
to
guy
Jinder Mahal.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, dude, and then the funny thing is, like, clearly Alistair Black right now is a babyface, but I feel like the aesthetic, everything he has going on, I think he could make a pretty seamless transition to a heel if need be. Honestly, I like the babyface vibe right now. I say we keep going with it, but if they'd ever want to make him a villain, I don't see why anything would really have to change, except he's doing this shit now to just well-established babyfaces.
Well, and
like, imagine him
you'd
just
have
kicking
to
the
turn
shit
the
out of Sami Zayn.
aggressiveness up a little bit, and he wouldn't be able to continue
Absolutely.
doing the backflip off the ropes, I don't think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But see, like the main point is, it would be minor tweaks to
Right.
me because him kicking
The
the shit out of
character as a
Sami
whole
Zayn.
would stay essentially the same.
Yeah, exactly. Because him kicking the shit out of a guy like a Sami Zayn, that'll tug at everybody's heartstrings. Well, I mean, it'll tug at mine, but in a very different way. But
I know everybody doesn't. I mean, nobody wants to see Big Larry getting dominated.
No, certainly not. But yeah, I think this is a very great discussion on Alistair Black. And partner, why don't you tell us what came after this?
Well, after Alistair picked up this win, we got a recap of the women's #1 contender battle royal a couple weeks ago. Or was it last week? I don't remember. But then we got to see backstage Regal telling Asuka angrily that she's facing all three of them. But then we got the unfortunate news that Ember Moon was injured on her toss out of the ring. I think she actually hit the guardrail with her left arm, and it kind of knocked her shoulder out of the socket. And she's out for at least a month, probably closer to a month and a half, 2 months. But so basically all that means is that now we're getting Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott versus Asuka in a 3-way chip instead of including Ember in that, making it a 4-way.
You know, I have to wonder, and this is me like not trying to blame anybody, but seeing like the toss again, I noticed that Ember seemed like she was like putting her arm out, and I'm wondering if she didn't do that, if she would have been healthy. I mean, it was nasty either way. I'm just like, damn, man, I really wish you didn't get hurt. But yeah, she's in a sling, and she more or less says like, yeah, this is the update. There's no takeover Chicago for me, which it tore me inside to hear that. But then she says, you know what? When I come back, I'm gonna be better than ever. And she walks off, I guess, determined to rehabilitate and come back. Any comments on this?
I gotta tell you, man, this was a heartbreaker, but the only real like silver lining to this terrible rain cloud is I don't think that she would have won the title anyway, even if she was in the match. I don't think it was her time yet.
No, I have to agree with you. And Alex Foster, this motherfucker, looks like they're giving Ember the cold shoulder. Ooh.
Yeah!
You know what, Foster? I'd be so mad if I didn't respect you so much for making that. All right. What came after this, bro?
All right. So then we got the announcement that we will be having our #1 contenders match for the NXT World Title tonight: Roddy Strong versus Hideo Itami. And then we got I don't know if this was like an announcement or a reaffirmation, but we found out yet again that we will be getting Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne in NXT TakeOver Chicago for the UK title. And then we got a Pete Dunne vignette that showed just how awful of a human being he really is.
I feel like this is the same vignette they did for the UK tournament. I mean, cool vignette either way, and I will give NXT credit. I mean, I thought we were going to get this rematch long ago. Like, I can't believe it's actually taken this long for these two to get back in the ring, but I think that's a positive because I think you've kept them so far apart now. I'm ready for that rematch. So, yeah, good stuff here. Can't really say anything bad about Pete Dunne. Let's move on.
Okay, then we got a Ruby Riott vignette, and I thought out of all the vignettes and interviews and everything that we got on this show, this was probably my favorite, honestly.
I would agree with you, man. I thought this was very well done. Look, if the goal of a vignette, especially for a newer performer like Ruby Riott, is to endear yourself to the audience, is to familiarize the audience with you, I feel like that succeeded. I feel like you pretty much got the vibe of what Ruby Riott is about. She talks about how each of her tattoos kind of tells a story. and just says like all the sacrifices she's made, all the friendships she's lost, all the gatherings that she opted out of simply so she could do this, so she could wrestle, are going to pay off and take over Chicago because she wants to be the NXT Women's Champion. It's everything to her, and she spoke with such conviction that it got me into the title match. Yes, it sucks that Ember's out, but I still think these three women could do something special. So I'm pulling for them, and I'm pulling for Ruby Riott. Good shit, man.
John, PW Gregory in chat makes a great point, and it made me realize I feel like you are severely underappreciating Pete Dunne.
Not really. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but I'm not exactly in love with him either. I mean, we've seen him in matches. I think his technical savvy is great. It's funny because
he could literally be the mascot of the Scum Squad.
I mean, I guess, but he has such an uggo face. Like,
That's the point. You just want to punch it. He's such a good heel.
Yeah, but I'd prefer to have somebody with suaveness and class, like Cliff, in that spot. Plus, his shoulder's healthy now, so he can shoulder the responsibility.
Healthy? I mean, since we're understating things, the grass is mildly tinted green.
There you go. See, it all works out. But no, I mean, yeah, I got no.
Cliff's shoulder is immortal, my friend.
Yeah, that's true. One has to wonder why he's sticking around when he could probably conquer the universe now. But I won't give him ideas.
No, but seriously though, Pete Dunne is like, I feel like he's like everything that Marty Scurll is and more as a heel.
It really, because look, we've seen matches with Pete Dunne, and it's funny because I always say that to me, Marty Scurll is kind of like the modern day Regal, but if anybody would be nipping at his heels or just like really a fair challenger for that claim, it would be Pete Dunne with the way the guy works in the ring. So, I mean, look, if he wants to be a part of
How many Pete Dunne matches have you seen? And the ones that you have seen, what's the context? Did you only see the PWG stuff?
I've seen the PWG stuff, and I think I've seen him compete twice in a WWE context, once or twice.
Do you remember what the context was for the WWE stuff?
I think like I saw him like target limbs and do a lot of limb targeting, like take a.
No, I mean like what matches are you referring to?
It might have. What was the match that Pete Dunne had on NXT?
Was he on an NXT show?
Yeah, he was. He was on an NXT show. I think he might have actually taken on Mark Andrews.
That's right. Yeah, that was a little while ago. Yeah. So there was that, and then any other examples that you can think of him in WWE context?
Not in a WWE context, no.
Okay, so just the one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just I one of these days we need to go back and rewatch the old UK tournament because I think you'll gain a new appreciation for old Pete Dunne.
Oh, I mean, like seeing him assault that one guy just to make a name for himself. I'm like, yeah, that guy, his life was worthless anyway. Good on you, Pete Dunne. Good on you. So, I mean, look, if he wants to join the Scum Squad, I mean, I'm in the process of making a formal application. I'll kind of farm them out, and if he wants to join, he can fill it out, and then maybe punt a child across a football field for extra points. So, we'll see.
I mean, he already has used a child as a weapon, apparently, in a match. So,
which is amazing. Pete Dunne already recognizing what children are worth. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to associate with a person like that. So, yeah, I mean, Pete Dunne, give me a call. But what came after this?
Let's go back to talking about this Ruby Riott vignette, because
Yes.
I feel like it did a really good job of getting her kind of built up. She talks about her tattoos, like you mentioned. And I just, it's one of those things where some people are just kind of natural at talking. And you put a camera in front of their face and you tell them to talk. And there are some people who will freeze, or they'll stutter, or they'll kind of have that like shaky sound in their voice where you can tell that they're really nervous. Ruby Riott is a natural talker. She is. And honestly, I think Ember Moon is kind of in the other category. I think Ember Moon is the type where she has to work really hard to feel natural on the mic. And even to this day, I don't necessarily think she does feel natural on the mic. I think that a lot of her promos feel more like the person speaking than her being in character as Ember Moon, because I don't think Ember Moon, the character, would speak the way that she actually does in reality. But Ruby Riott, man, she is a natural on the mic. You can just feel and hear and tell the way that she speaks is something that she has no problem doing. She has a natural charisma about her. I really like this chick, man. She's great.
Oh, dude, I think she's wonderful. And look, your criticisms of Ember, I wholeheartedly sign on to. Like I have said, like I adore everything about the woman except the mic work. I do think that needs work. Whereas Ruby Riott, even from her first promo, like that NXT kind of Fallout promo when they get him backstage, she sounded just so natural, so calm, and like, and that tagline, "When we win, we riot." She just gets it immediately. And it's really nice seeing prospects like Alistair Black and Ruby Riott just hitting the ground running, man. It's a beautiful sight to see. And yeah, I'm very happy she got a vignette like this. And even if she doesn't win the title at TakeOver Chicago, which I'm not saying one way or the other because we're doing all the preview and predictions next week, I do think she will get a reign with that championship in the future. I have no doubt about that. So great stuff here for Ruby Riott.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I honestly am 100% sold that they're going to give her the title, but I could buy it if they would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially because Asuka's been champion for so long, it's really gotten into that territory of any minute now. And yeah, if they wanted to give Ruby that honor just out of nowhere, like it would be jarring to me because I feel like Ember really has been groomed for that spot. But at the same time, I would quickly accommodate. I would say, that this, yeah, she can pull this off. So good stuff.
All right, yeah, and then we got another sort of similar kind of situation here. They attempted to get Nikki Cross to do a sit-down interview, and it was difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to out myself as an asshole, I guess. Surprise, surprise. Like, I didn't hate this, but where you and I were watching NXT, like, I saw people like, oh, she's the female Jon Moxley. And I've seen Ambrose's best promo work from that FCW compilation that you have.
He's a lot more convincing than she is.
Yeah, a lot more convincing. And, like, I mean this is the ultimate compliment because I can't say this about many promoists. I get lost in his promos. Like, I get taken to another place when he's really on his A game. And to be honest, I've only experienced that once, maybe twice in his main roster run. I wish it was a regular thing because, man, can he slay that mic. Nikki Cross, though, again, like, I see the talent there. This is not me writing her off. It's just this, to me, isn't working. I feel a disconnect, and I can't lie about that. Like, she's playing with the mic and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I just wish you'd be either serious or just something else. Like, let me ask you, man, what would you have wanted from this? Knowing what Nikki Cross is, knowing that she's representing Sanity, what do you think would have been a better route to take with this?
Honestly, if they would have cut out all of the garbage, like, I'm going to be annoying on purpose shit at the beginning, and just cut straight to the end where she was basically talking into the camera, cutting an actual promo on Asuka and Ruby, I would have been ecstatic. Because that, to me, that was the highlight of this whole thing, was when she finally decided to kind of step down and address Ruby and Asuka directly, and she's talking into the mic that you clip on your collar, and she's like talking right into the camera, and she walks up to the camera, and she's, like, that was intense, and I think that was really well done. But that felt like a completely different character than the one she tries to portray any other time.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that. I feel like I'm saying that a lot tonight. You've just really been making a lot of excellent points and thinking what else is new. But yeah, I mean, I hear her say that and get up and like black out the camera and she's still talking. And yeah, that's unnerving. I'm like, oh man, now we're seeing something. But all the stuff prior to that, it was almost like she was a cat, like fascinated with this laser, like playing with the mic and like, Ruby. And it's like, that's not intimidating. I'm not intimidated by you. Granted, would I say this to your face? Probably not, because I'm very cowardly at heart. But that's not the point. This isn't about me. This is about you striking fear into my heart, and you're doing a pretty shitty job of it. Now, at the end, I got like what she was going for. I wish that was the whole promo of her just like talking in that same kind of tone, and she walks ever so slowly towards the camera until at the end it's like blacked out and she does her finishing statements. But all that prior stuff, it's like, oh, we get it. You're so unhinged. Ooh.
And that's the thing, too, is at no point does she feel genuinely unhinged. She feels like somebody trying to pretend to be unhinged. That's all this ever feels like with her. It always it never feels like, wow, that is a crazy person. It always feels like, oh, that's an annoying teenager trying to pretend to be crazy.
You know, again, I don't want to be overly critical because whenever we have these discussions, I know it comes from a place where you and I both know how great Nikki Cross can be. I almost sometimes wish that like they find a way to write her off, not waiting for anything bad to happen to her. You can plenty of creative ways to write somebody off, and she comes back really just as like Nikki Storm or Nikki whatever, and she's just more
Nikki Glenn Cross.
Nikki Glenn Cross, maybe. Yeah, just more herself. Because, yeah, this really isn't working, but I don't want her to fail. I just want the gimmick to be altered because there is promise there. This isn't a case where I hate the whole package. I just hate, well, a very crucial part of the package. So I don't know what we're going to do. I really didn't care for this, if I'm being honest. Again, the end stuff was good, so I shouldn't say I totally hated it. I'd give it maybe like a 6 out of 10, but yeah, that preceding stuff. So, yeah, it's with this.
I would give the initial stuff with her, pretending to attack the one guy that was trying to get her mic on her, and then playing with the mic, and then playing with the boom mic, and all that garbage. I would give that like a 3.5 out of 10, and then I would give the promo that she cut at the end on Ruby and Asuka like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, see, I'm right there with you on that sentiment. Let's move on. What came after this?
We had an interview with Drew McIntyre, which was interrupted by Wesley Blake.
And immediately I was thinking, oh man, not Buddy Murphy. What'd you think about this?
No, because Buddy Murphy, when he comes back, he's going to be as a babyface, because he's going to use shooting stars and shit.
Oh, God, dude, I hope you're right. Because let me tell you something. You really want to get, like, my eyes popping out of my head and invested in the NXT product? Make Buddy Murphy a #1 contender for Roode's title out of nowhere. Like, yeah, I dare him to put their foot on the gas like that, because I mean, my God, I could talk about Buddy Murphy for the next hour with you. But what do you think about Wesley Blake here, that he's the one we got?
You know what? Beautiful Blake. I love it. I love this dude. He basically, I don't know if you're familiar at all, but he's actually been, I don't even know if this is recent, but I saw a couple months ago he was working some NXT house shows with almost like a Tyler Breeze-esque character, where he's like this like overly flamboyant, feminine, like he thinks he's sexy kind of version of himself, and it's actually hilarious.
Well, I mean, one of the best things he did in the tag team, not saying he isn't good in ring, like I loved
the platinum blonde hair and the ponytails and the pigtails, yeah, all
exactly.
that stuff.
Like, yeah, him messing with his hair and stuff, it was those, but it drew heat at the time, so it was the little things. I think Wesley Blake and I think we've even said this before about the dichotomy between Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake. Like, Buddy Murphy will be a great everything. Wesley Blake, I think his strength will always be in whatever character he happens to present, which is fine, because at the end of the day, he's still in the right business. It's just, I'm really looking my chops for Buddy Murphy, and I echo Draven's sentiments in chat. By the way, Draven, hope you're having an amazing birthday. Yeah, Drew, kill him, please. Just put him down, move on to the next one, and just fuck him. And let's get on to Buddy Murphy, because that's a project. Buddy Murphy and Patrick Clark, or maybe we should start getting used to calling him the Velveteen Dream. Those are projects I'm interested in, for sure. Wesley Blake, again, I never wish anybody to fail, but whether you do or not is really of no consequence to me. So unless you have any closing sentiments, we can move on.
Oh, see, and I gotta say, I actually like Wesley Blake. He's like that Heath Slater, Tyler Breeze type, where he's never gonna be like the biggest star, but he's really good in his own character. He can bump like a machine, and he's always gonna make his opponents look good. And that's the type of dude that you need on your roster.
Yeah, absolutely. The only type of person, that would hate Buddy Murphy would be people that are jaded and bitter like James. But maybe I'm jaded and bitter.
I mean, jaded and bitter, try more like delusional. The only reason he dislikes Buddy Murphy is because he thinks Alexa Bliss knows he exists.
Exactly. You're going to die alone, James. Accept it. But regardless, I mean, yeah, we'll see what Wesley Blake does. Hell, dude, I'm saying this about Wesley Blake today. A few NXT TWitWows from now, maybe like beyond TakeOver Chicago, depending on what he's doing, I'm going to be like, oh, Wesley Blake's awesome. And then you'll be like, oh, really, John? That wasn't the tune you were singing this many weeks ago. And then we'll just hash it out. So we'll see. But yeah, we definitely know Wesley Blake versus McIntyre is in the future. Looking forward to it. Let's move on.
All right, guys. Up next, we had our Velveteen Dream vignette. So we already kind of briefly touched on this, but we didn't really give full thoughts. So, John, what did you want to? Anything else that you wanted to say about this that we didn't talk about last week when we saw this?
No. I mean, again, I just think Patrick Clark is just a complete package. I hope that your nitpick doesn't actually touch on any kind of part of reality. Because I just think, again, as a name, it would be dead on arrival. But I think he'll probably debut. You think he's going to debut at TakeOver Chicago?
I mean, it's definitely possible. It feels like it. They're kind of building her up a little bit, or him up a little bit, to kind of try and maybe set it up so it's kind of similar to like what we've had in the past with guys where you've got the build up over time and then the debut of the takeover. So it's weird because we've seen him already quite a few times. Like he had a match with Nakamura on NXT TV and everything. But I do think it's interesting that and definitely possible that they'll debut him on TakeOver Chicago.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I didn't even really think about that because they've done this so many times before. I mean, with Andrade, with Alistair, with Ember Moon. So, yeah, that's probably where they're going. Yeah.
And who else are they building up? I mean, it seems like there's pretty consistently always going to be some kind of big return or debut on an NXT TakeOver, and he's really the only one even getting built for this show.
And you know what's funny? Because I really am going into the assumption that he is going to be a heel because he's just always been a heel whenever he has appeared on NXT.
But he could be a No Way Jose style face.
He could be. But see,
his first match could be with No Way Jose, in which case I'm all in.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was getting at because if he is debuting as a heel, which I feel like we haven't seen that in a while, if really ever with NXT debuts since they've really become streamlined and, blew up, who would be the babyface opponent? Because, with babyfaces, it's like, hey, Andrade, what are you doing on Saturday? Jobbing to your latest prospect? That's right. But, this time...
No!
Dude, I know. Look, as the Andrade mark, because you know how much I just, fucking praised him in our 5v5, it hurts me.
Hey, man, he was in both of our top two.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying I really poured the love on, so you're not alone.
We both did.
Why does this suddenly feel competitive? We all know he'd prefer me over you anyway. I mean,
you're the one making it competitive by trying to say one of us loves him more than the other. I'm trying to say we both love him.
I just was really saying that I poured it on thick and that, yeah, you're not alone. That's really all I was saying, but it's okay. It's okay to know that Andrade would choose me over you. It's fine. But yeah,
of course,
it does hurt, but knowing that Patrick Clark or the Velveteen Dream could debut as a heel, you do have to wonder what their options are. And if No Way Jose is the option, oh, how the mighty have fallen, because I thought he'd be doing more than this by now, but yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, well, I mean, we got the Velveteen Dream vignette. He's hopefully, probably, I don't know, maybe possibly debuting at TakeOver Chicago, and by debuting, what I really mean is returning, because we've already seen him multiple times on NXT TV before. Anyway, up next, DIY come out to the ring, and they cut a promo talking about how they're the only team that truly deserves a fair one-on-one shot at the Office of Pain for the Tag Team Championships, and that the line starts behind them.
Now,
and then Riddick Moss and Tino Sabbatelli show up. And they say, oh, no, guys, the line starts behind us. And then Ciampa gets on the mic, and he's like, oh, if there was a line, and then they attack him and knock him out of the ring. But then a couple seconds pass, and then they start to get back in the ring because we actually do have a match here.
Before I hand the ball over to you, because I know how much you love DIY. In fact, despite all the kidding we were doing earlier, I know for a fact you definitely love DIY more than I do. I got to credit Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano for their professionalism, because if Riddick Moss and Tino Sabbatelli interrupted me, I would have been like, oh, I'm sorry. Who are you? And I would have instantly killed their heat. So, yeah, credit to them. But what'd you think of this match, man? Give us your thoughts.
My man, this I just love DIY so much, and it's funny because every time I see Riddick Moss, I think I've even said this before. Every time I see Riddick Moss, I want to name him Riddick Green, because I just think of him dropping Hideo on his head in that match a couple months ago. But yeah, this DIY are masters. Like they managed to take these guys who are both very green, very inexperienced, very, only been in the business for a few years now, and even if they had been in the business for longer, they haven't gotten that great in the ring yet. So they took these guys and they made them look good. Ciampa sold his ass off for them, and then at the end of the day, when Gargano gets the hot tag, it ended relatively quickly. It didn't end instantly or anything, but Gargano did his business, and then we got a little bit of a double team, and then the PCS for the win.
Yeah, dude, first of all, just to get my Johnny Scumbag moment out of the way, I really delighted in Riddick Moss eating the PCS. That was just beautiful. That's what you get for taking Hideo Itami out of action. But, yeah, the funny thing is, now that Hideo's back and now that Riddick got his just desserts here, I'm willing to give these guys a fair shake and get beyond it. And the thing is, yeah, they're still green, they're still learning, but you know what? If they really do get better and they do learn the ropes, I could see these guys being a solid heel tag team, honestly. I definitely think they've got the look. I'd like to hear more on the promo side, and I hope that they're not too generic, and if they are, hopefully that improves as well. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely see that NXT with heavy machinery and with these guys, I think, what are they calling themselves? The true athletes or something athletes?
Who cares?
Well, we may have to in the future if these guys get pushed. So, you never know. I mean, yeah, they jobbed tonight, but again, as we know with NXT, today's jobbers are tomorrow's, upper mid-carders.
Not with the freaking constant influx of talent that NXT has. These guys are never going to get anything.
Well, we'll wait and see. Because, I mean, look, I'm inclined to agree with you for sure. But, I mean, between Heavy Machinery and now these guys, maybe NXT wants fresher faces in their
Heavy Machinery is clearly in the middle of a push right now. But these guys just came out to get a little bit of heat and then job. That's pretty much all they were used for here.
Right. So, I mean, hey, we'll see. But DIY get the win. The big story here, though, is that William Regal comes out. He's about to make an announcement for TakeOver Chicago, but the Authors of Pain interrupt. Paul Ellering says, if you get DIY back in the ring with my team of Dynasty, it'll pretty much, end their careers. And then William Regal's like, oh, that's a chance I'm willing to take. And then Paul says, well, then their blood is going to be on your hands. And then William says, well, Paul, don't you want to know what the stipulation is? And everybody's like, oh, what? And it's at TakeOver Chicago. We're getting a ladder match between DIY and Authors of Pain, to which Paul is probably thinking, but that's not part of the algorithm I developed. And yeah, the segment ends. So what do you think about this, Ashton?
Yeah, that's you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I'm not touching that. Let's move on. We had an interview with Cassius Ono, and he was interrupted by CN.
Yeah, I love this so much. And, I love that Andrade is just like, oh, you should go away. Pretty much like what Wesley Blake was telling McIntyre earlier. And, yeah, he's just pretty much saying the same thing. Andrade's feeling himself. But Cassius Ono brings up what's been a big talking point with Andrade for a few weeks. Like, oh, you talk about me squandering opportunities or needing to go away. You squander all your opportunities, all the talent you have. You care more about partying after the match. And then he says, well, I got an opportunity for you. How about you and me next week? And Andrade says, okay. And just walks off like a boss. Because why give an extended promo when you're better than everyone else? So, yeah, I really appreciated this exchange, and I cannot wait for this match next week.
Dude, I feel like Almas was like right there at the brink of the top of the world like 2 months ago, and now it's like they're just not. This is the first time we've seen him in how long now?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I gotta ask you, because I've been asking like quite a few people like on Twitter. Haven't really talked about it with many, but I figure I might as well air it out here. What do you think the end game is with this angle with Andrade and the partying and everything?
I have no clue, dude. My concern is that they don't have an end game planned, and they're just doing it for the sake of giving him something to do, since they don't feel like they have anything else for him to do.
Because, I mean, yeah, I didn't even really consider that option, to be honest, but that's certainly on the table. And I think it was...
That's just such a WWE thing to do.
Right. I know I mentioned to one of our fans on Twitter, I can't remember who, it might have been Jarveris, actually, that the two ways I see it going, one heavily optimistic and the other, I think, more realistic. Either him, like, being more concerned with partying could result in a gimmick change, which I would hate because I love the packaging and everything right now, or something happens in the NXT landscape that causes him to refocus and kind of reassert himself as just this extraordinary competitor and maybe even future contender still as a heel. And
Maybe they're building him up to be in a tag team.
Maybe, but a tag team with who, though? Who do you think his partner would be?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Roderick Strong.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, a few takeovers back, they were having a match with each other, so it'd be interesting to see how that relationship would come
I want to kind of, elaborate a little bit, because I felt like Roderick Strong tonight in his match against Hideo was acting very heelish.
Yeah. So who knows, dude? Who knows?
So maybe we could get like a little mini Los Ingobernables, whatever you want to call it, whether it's America or Florida or Full Sail or whatever the shit.
Right.
And it's just Roderick and Omos. It doesn't have to be an entire faction. It can just be a tag team. And it's just those guys. And, I mean, obviously, they probably wouldn't even call it Los Ingobernables, but they could probably use the same, body language and idiosyncrasies and stuff like that Los typically uses. So, I mean, yeah, I think that would be interesting. And Roddy really, like, his match tonight, he felt like such a jerk and such a bad guy and such a heel. I feel like the loss might be what kind of sends him over the edge, and maybe Andrade will be the first guy that's standing there ready to extend his hand out and help him out.
Right. And, that is a very interesting point, dude, because, and honestly, you mentioning Los Ingobernables, I'll say De America, I think that'd be the best possible end game, because I could see it where, like, because you saw Cassius Ono, because before it was only mentioned by, like, Tom Phillips and that stuff, like, oh, what's Andrade doing, like, after his matches? Is he losing perspective? But now his peers are saying it. Like Cassius Ono tonight saying, like, look at you squandering opportunities because you're more concerned with what happens after the match. I would like for it to get to such a point where maybe somebody gets a real burn on him, maybe Oney Lorcan or something, because of the matches they've had. And he's like, man, where's the guy that, went bell to bell with me or whatever? Like, you're a disgrace. You're not Andrade or whatever. Just some kind of burn to that effect. And then he comes out with Los Ingobernables de America and just reasserts himself. Like, that's who Andrade is.
Since we're sticking with Spanish, let's say de Norte Americano.
There you go. And yeah, then after the fact, he's like, this is who I am. So rather than a gimmick change, which is what I'm fearing, they double down on who Andrade is and then give him that faction. And then it's off to the races. I would absolutely love that. Am I optimistic it'll happen? Not really, but given that we just both adore Andrade so much, I want to be optimistic. I really do, because the guy keeps having killer matches. And, I don't want to see him just be that jobber to the stars, that guy that always elevates other people without he himself seeing any kind of elevation. So we'll see. But yeah, Cassius Ono, Andrade next week, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be. It will be amazing. So anyway, up next, we've got a Tyler Bate vignette. And it's kind of interesting because they kind of touch on this whole idea that, oh, he's 19 years old, he's this child, and he kind of does say, like, no, I'm an adult, and I have my ambitions and my ideas and shit, and he's got his shit together, and I appreciate that, and that mustache makes him look like a 45-year-old Dale Earnhardt, but he's 19 years old, so.
Yeah, which makes me question what have I been doing with my life in regards to my facial hair, but that's intense introspection for another time. Good vignette here for Tyler Bate, and yeah, it should be a very interesting match, him versus Pete Dunne, the rematch from the UK Championship Tournament Finals at TakeOver Chicago. So what came after this?
Up next, we had a quick little like mini interview. Roderick Strong walking to the gorilla position, getting ready to enter the arena for his match. I think her name was Christy, caught up with him and said, hey, what's going on? What do you think of this match coming up? and he says, "This is why I'm here, and this is what I've worked for." And then his music hit, and he headed out there. It's showtime.
Yeah, loved it. Hideo got a very short interview himself because interviewer pretty much asked him, "How do you feel like about the situation? You win this, you go to face Bobby Roode," and he says, "I respect Roderick, but I'm the one that's going to be going to take over Chicago, and Roderick is just going to go to sleep." And then he walks out. So I like that by Hideo. I'm telling you, man, I feel like his English, he really is, to me personally, in that Shinsuke category where I can understand him. I actually feel like he had a great line there about the whole, "I'm going to take over, he's just going to sleep." So, yeah, I mean, despite the setbacks that Hideo has suffered, it's good to see that as far as, like, personal growth, there really doesn't seem to have been, like, much of a setback in that department. So, good stuff there. And yeah, we get our main event, Roderick Strong versus Hideo Itami. What do you think about this main event?
It was so good. These guys, again though, to me, Roderick was 100% playing the heel in this match, and it wasn't even just like he's being like the bully type, and he's still a good guy. No, like he was an asshole to Hideo in this match.
Yeah, absolutely.
He worked over the shoulder and everything, and like he was yanking on the shoulder so much that it was like he was bulging out the scar that Hideo has from the surgery.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, heel Roderick Strong, I'm not saying he can't work as a babyface. I'm saying I know he can work as a heel, and there's a difference there. Because, we've seen his PWG work and everything, and seeing him work that heel style, picking apart the shoulder, there was one point where he was just stomping on Hideo viciously. Yep. The backbreakers he employed.
The backbreakers, dude, they were so brutal and vicious.
I love when Roddy really shows why he is the messiah of the backbreaker, because never to me have backbreakers looked more legitimate or been more interesting than the variety, the plenitude that Roddy brings with him of that maneuver. So, yeah, he did great. But then when Hideo would fire back and really get aggressive, it was nice to see that aggressive side on somebody that could really actually defend themselves and has the credibility to defend themselves, like Roderick, because it just made the dominance all the more satisfying. I mean, that basement drop kick in the corner that he got to Roderick, just sick. The knee to the face that he got, prior to that when Roddy was going for the sick kick, also on point. And then the closing moments when Roderick is using Hideo to pick himself up, and he doesn't want to give it up, and he goes to swing, and Hideo just gets him in fireman's carry position and knees him in the face with the go to sleep. I mean, just beautiful.
Yeah, really, really well told story, I feel, because you could really feel the desperation from Roddy, and I think that's why he was so over the top brutal in this match and kind of did come off as a heel, because he was desperate. He wanted this win, similarly to how you can kind of empathize with Kevin Owens sometimes because of the whole "I do this for my family" thing. And now we have an extra level of empathy for Roderick Strong because we actually got to see his wife and his, I believe, newborn son. We've seen Roderick Strong's family now, which is like a step further than we've even gotten with Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens, like, they want you to boo him.
Right.
And yeah, Roderick now, like, he definitely does have that sense of urgency, that sense of desperation, that sense of, I can't afford to lose, and then he does.
Yeah, and you make a great point. It really is the perfect kind of an ending, given what we know about Roderick Strong now, that even when he's barely able to stand, he still has something to give, because like he even said in those highlights, it's not about him anymore. He's got a family to think about. So yeah, it definitely adds that emotional tinge. Here's the thing. After that, such an intimate look, I don't know if NXT ever plans on turning Roddy heel, and if they do, it won't be for a long time, because you don't just do something like that and then turn somebody heel unless you're main roster WWE and your name is Seth Rollins. But I thought it was a great match. Hideo gets the win. He punches his ticket to Chicago, and I got to give NXT credit. I mean, I really am over Bobby Roode as NXT champion, but the only thing keeping me in this title reign are the challengers, and we've been fans of Hideo for some time. I am really pulling for him at Chicago. Doesn't mean I think he'll win. Again, we'll get to that at TakeOver Chicago preview and predictions. But from a fandom perspective, oh, hell yes. 200% in the corner of Hideo Itami. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to be fair, that really is kind of the whole purpose of having a heel champion, is building up contenders and having people want to see the champion lose the title.
yeah.
So in that sense, even though neither one of us are big fans of Bobby Roode, he's still an effective heel champion, because we just want to see somebody take the title off of him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on a side note, I do 100% agree with James. I mean, Strong really should quit. You mentioned Kevin Owens earlier. You know, as a father, he wouldn't have lost that match because he doesn't fail his family. So Roderick, I mean, I wish him luck facing
I'm sorry, didn't Kevin Owens lose to Chris Jericho at Payback?
Yeah, but didn't he gain the title back the Tuesday after, thus keeping the checks coming?
Didn't he lose the Universal title to Goldberg in like 30 seconds back in February?
Because of Chris Jericho. And plus, you're taking away from the point. Roderick Strong is a failure. Good luck facing your wife and daughter, knowing that you're in utter disgrace. You know, that's really the main takeaway here. I mean, yeah, Roderick, you fought when you could barely stand. I mean, bravo to you, but you still failed. So, yeah, do with that what you will there, Roddy. Do with that what you will.
So does that mean that I get to call Kevin Owens a failure anytime he loses a match?
No, you don't, because Kevin Owens at least has the track record to back it up. What has Roderick done since he's been in NXT? Oh, that's right, nothing. How many?
Won every match until this one?
No. And really, even if that was true, which to be fair, it might be, it doesn't change the fact that how long did it take Kevin Owens to win the NXT championship when he arrived on NXT? Yeah, not as long as Roderick is the correct answer.
Oh, yeah, and how long did it take for him to lose it after gaining it?
I actually feel like it still took a good bit. Not
5 months. It took him 5 months.
Yeah, you act like that's nothing. Like that is a respectable title reign. So look, I know that we're all just kind of reacting, defending Roderick. Oh, he's a new father, and he's already sucking at it. Do better, Roddy. Do better. But that's my closing thoughts on NXT. I mean, Hideo certainly showed Roderick more respect than I did, helping him up. They hugged, and that's how the show closes. So any closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so. You really just kind of put a damper on everything there at the end.
Yeah, but that's the Johnny Scumbag way. So time for our next segment, high spots and low shots. And just because it feels so good to dig my heels in there, my low shot is Roderick Strong. Because you make me sympathize with you. You make me see your humanity. And then when it comes time to cash in and win the big match, well, you choke. So, yeah, you lost. You're not going to Chicago. You're not competing for the NXT Championship. And you have to face your family with the very gravity of that failure. So, yeah, Roderick Strong, easiest low shot I've had in some time. What about you?
My low shot is going to be the team of Riddick Moss and Tino Sabatelli. Because, John, what is the slogan of the Scum Squad?
Never try.
And they tried, and they failed.
That is true. That is true. You are not wrong there. So, yeah, moving right along, high spot. This is easy. Hideo Itami. He is going to take over Chicago. He actually cashed in on, his dominance, GTSing Roode. And now Roode is going to be in that ring with him. I'm hoping that he can take it all the way, bringing the NXT Championship home, because if he does, my reaction to it will be about damn time. So who is your high spot?
My high spot, believe it or not, is actually going to be Ruby Riott, because I feel like she had the best sort of moment of the show, second to Hideo, admittedly, because Hideo won the big match. But still, Ruby Riott had a great vignette. We got some character explanation on her. We got some progression. And I feel like she really stood out on this show.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that's an excellent pick.
Honorary mention to DIY for getting that ladder match, baby.
That's true. Yeah, they punched their ticket. They're finally getting their one-on-one rematch. Can they make good on it? We'll see. But
will they be failures if they don't?
Of course they will. And I'll laugh at them so hard. I mean, how can Candice LeRae be married to such a disgrace? She should be married to James. At least he has a job that he's good at. And yeah, I just praised James to put down baby faces. Desperate? I think not, good sir. I think not. But regardless, any closing remarks on NXT tonight?
Seems pretty desperate to me. No closing remarks.
So does your face. actually. So does your fate.
I said no closing remarks. End the show.
Okay. Ooh, testy. All right, guys, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my co-owner and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like the video. The more likes you leave, the more likely we are to be the top search result for NXT reviews on YouTube. Plus,
we already have 4 dislikes. What the hell, man?
Yeah, it's like a TWitWoW mutiny going on. We will find you, and then we will have a long talk with you about your being an insensitive feelings hurter. But yeah, just be sure to leave a like if you haven't already. And as far as like all of our media, now that we've got these sexy ass backgrounds back, you can refer to them.
Hopefully, in a way, ish.
Exactly. You can refer to them for all of that TWitWoW goodness. I think the only thing that isn't on here is our Teespring store. So you can check that out if you want to represent TWitWoW with some fine-ass merch, or represent the Scum Squad again with fine-ass merch. So, yeah, there's that. As far as the rest of the week, there are no recordings for the rest of the week. So this is the last bit of TWitWoW goodness until we do it all again next week. And next week is going to be packed because it's pay-per-view week and all that good shit. But in the meantime, the only other thing I will plug is Q&A. I know a good bit of you have already sent questions, but if you haven't already, Q&A is going to be May 26th. We do Q&A the last Friday of every month. Happens to be the 26th this month. So if you haven't gotten your questions in yet, please do so. You're permitted up to 4 questions per Q&A, and you could submit them. Hell, when this video is done processing, you can leave a comment with a question. You can tweet at us. I have a pinned tweet specifically for Q&As, or you could DM us. If you go to the Facebook page to submit questions, I know Alex Foster does that. Be sure to leave a like. If you do visit a page for the first time, you can inbox us questions there. Point being, you have a multitude of avenues to get your questions in. No reason why you can't participate in Q&A, especially when I'm belaboring the point like this. So get your questions in. Q&A is always a fun time. You guys always come up with some great imaginative stuff. And with that said, yeah, again, the week has been rounded out here, so we will see you again. I think our next video will be, Lucha Rewatch, where it's going to be episodes 21 and 22 covered. So until then, guys.
Did you just ignore that we do live reactions to SmackDown now?
Oh, yeah, that's right. SmackDown live reactions. Sorry, I had a blank there on Tuesday. So, yeah, Tuesday we will be back, SmackDown live reactions. And then, yeah, Wednesday, all that stuff's happening. So, till then, guys, we'll see you for SmackDown live reactions. Till then, tune in and peace out.